I have the pleasure and honor to be the country coordinator for Italy of Fashion Revolution since 2014. Fashion Revolution is a movement that started after the tragedy of the Rana Plaza in Bangladesh, where 1,130 people died. The emphasis of Fashion Revolution is to bring equity and justice to the 70 million textile workers that work in fashion today. As a matter of fact, we just concluded a big campaign, a European campaign called Good Clothes Fair Pay, about the living wage, a wage that workers should have in order to have a decent life. Child labor is a direct consequence of the non-payment of a living wage. There can't be justice in fashion if the people that make our clothes live in poverty and have to send their children to work. Legislations are one of the biggest and most important tools we have to make a change. The new European strategy on textiles was drafted after 60 non-governmental organizations, among which Fashion Revolution, which I represent in Italy, proposed a shadow policy to the European Parliament, which means that in every European country by 2024, we will have to implement these laws. Some of the most important points are mandatory eco-design principles. For example, we know now that for a product to be fully circular, it has to be made of one fiber only, because otherwise you cannot recycle it, you cannot do anything with it at the end of its life. We also have the extended responsibility of the producer, which means that if I am a brand and I produce products, I am responsible in premise to take care of this object at the end of its functional life cycle. Another one I would like to mention is the digital passport. This digital passport is basically a QR code that will be on labels that will tell customers the whole story of that garment. So this new legislation brings finally transparency to the production of clothing, which at the moment doesn't really exist. In the US, in New York, there is a proposal called Fashion Act, which is very similar to the EU strategy. We have also another movement in California that is proposing a law about fair wages. And in France, they have already approved a series of laws. One, for example, is about incentives from the government for private citizens in order to buy vintage or to repair clothes that are broken. So there are movements and there are legislations being proposed, being approved all over the world. And also because it's working hand in hand with the Sustainable Development Goals of the UN, responsible consumption and production. There is a very exciting movement of young new brands that are starting off sustainable from the beginning. If anyone is starting a new brand, you have to think circular. You have to think that everything you put in the market, A, there has to be a need for this product. B, you have to solve the problems. The fashion industry today is creating an enormous amount of waste. We have increased the production of fashion by 400% since 20 years ago. And this is since fast fashion has become the norm. We don't need all these clothes. And young brands are doing this. They're reutilizing clothes that are already existing, they're changing them, they're modifying them, or they're using very sustainable fabrics, new innovative materials. Another interesting fact is that the sustainable fashion sales grow every year by 8.7%. It's important because future generations, Gen Z, really wants to have products that are done caring for the planet and the people that live on this planet. Becoming a sustainable company is not something that happens overnight. It is a process. It has to be a systemic change, which involves, first of all, the cleanup of the production chain. The second thing is treat people fairly. So cooperation between brands that produce, let's say in Southeast Asia, is very important, because if more than one brand produces with one factory, if they all decide that they want the workers to be paid a living wage, then it can happen. So we need collaboration between brands. We need the gradual elimination of hazardous chemicals. We need to rethink the way we design. So we need to rethink how patterns are cut. So zero waste pattern making has to become the norm within the design room and the pattern making room. Because today, 15% of all good fabric that gets cut in the cutting room falls on the floor. We also need to make clothes that last, because a lot of people discard their clothes usually because the zipper doesn't work anymore, because the color is faded, because the seams are coming apart. Also, as a producer, you're going to have to get ready to have the producer responsibility, which means that you will have to take back from your clients the clothes that they don't want anymore. And you have to have a plan on how to do something with them. So, cutting the chemicals that you're using in your production, paying people a living wage, cutting waste during the design process and then the production process are really key points for any brand to implement if they really want to go on a path to sustainability.